Katsu Kaishū was a Japanese statesman and naval engineer during the late Tokugawa Shogunate and early Meiji period, and is considered the father of modern Imperial Japanese Navy. As a youth, Kaishū's swordmaster urged him to give up fencing and focus on studying Dutch, Western technologies, and European military science. Reluctant at first, Kaishū eventually became fascinated with Western culture and was recruited into government service, serving as a translator for the shogunate when negotiating with foreign countries. Kaishū developed a reputation as an expert in Western military technology. Under the advice of Dutch naval officers, Kaishū served as head naval cadet at the Nagasaki Naval Academy as one of the 37 Tokugawa retainers between 1855 and 1859. In 1860, Kaishū served as captain of the warship Kanrin Maru to escort the first Japanese delegation to San Francisco, California, en route to Washington, D.C., for the formal ratification of the Harris Treaty. This treaty secured commercial and diplomatic privileges for the United States and Japan, and constituted the basis for Western economic penetration of Japan. This was the first time a Japanese ship made the cross-Pacific journey. It served to study Western science and technologies, but was also meant to show off Japan's ability to master modern technologies. The Kanrin Maru, built by the Dutch, was the first Japanese vessel to sail to the Western world. Kaishū remained in San Francisco for nearly 2 months, observing American society, culture, and technology. It is beyond doubt that his subsequent commitment to modernization and political liberalism can be attributed to his exposure to foreign cultures and ideas. Following his return to Japan, Kaishū held a series of high-ranking posts in the Tokugawa Navy, arguing before government councils in favor of a unified Japanese naval force, led by professionally trained officers in disregard of promotion and assignment due to hereditary status. Kaishū pointed out that Commodore Matthew Perry from the United States had been able to enter Edo Bay unimpeded only because Japan did not have a navy to defend itself. He urged the shogunate to recruit men for a navy. He dared to propose that the military government break age-old tradition and go beyond birthright to recruit men of ability rather than the sons of the social elite. During his command as director of the Kobe Naval School, the institute would become a major source of activity for progressive thinking and reformists between 1863 and 1864. The academy became a hotbed of progressive political ideas and reform. Kaishū believed that Japan's future was best served to open itself to the world, and this put his life in jeopardy at the hands of Japan's pro-imperial, anti-foreign radicals. One of those radicals was Sakamoto Ryoma. Originally intent on assassinating Kaishū, Sakamoto became hooked on his vision for Japan and became his leading disciple and was appointed head of the Naval Academy. Sakamoto once believed Kaishū was worthy of beheading, but later changed his tune and referred to Kaishū as the most important man in Japan. Kaishū went to great lengths to protect Sakamoto and the many ronin in his naval academy. As a result of this perceived betrayal to the shogunate, in October 1864, Kaishū was recalled to Edo, dismissed from his post, and placed under house arrest for harboring enemies of the military government. His naval academy was closed, and his generous stipend reduced. Kaishū was a maverick within the government, who had broken age-old tradition and even law by imparting his expertise to enemies of the shogunate. He openly criticized his less talented colleagues at Edo for their inability to realize that the days of Tokugawa rule were numbered. Kaishū, in the Grand Hall at Edo Castle, had once braved punishment and even death by advising Shogun Tokugawa Yoshinobu to abdicate. He was now being recalled to service because Shogun Tokugawa Yoshinobu knew that Kaishū was the only man in all of Edo who wielded both the respect and trust of the revolutionaries. In 1866, Kaishū was reinstated and appointed negotiator between the Bakufu forces in the anti-shogunate domain of Choshu, and later served as chief negotiator for the Tokugawa Bakufu, ensuring a relatively peaceful and orderly transition of power in the Meiji Restoration. This allowed both sides to avoid catastrophic losses of life and property. Following the decisive Battle of Toba Fushimi, in which many daimyo who had remained neutral now declared loyalty to the emperor, Kaishū met with Saigo Takamori at Saigo's encampment at Ikegami Honmonji. It is said that it was a result of this meeting that the peaceful surrender of Edo Castle was arranged. This spared Edo a certain degree of destruction, which might have resulted had the shogunate chosen to hold out further. Although highly critical of the shogunate, Kaishū never openly opposed its government. He followed the last shogun Tokugawa Yoshinobu into exile. Even though he was sympathetic to the anti-Tokugawa cause, Kaishū remained loyal to the Tokugawa Bakufu during the Boshin War. After the collapse of the Tokugawa forces in late 1867, Kaishū negotiated the surrender of Edo Castle to Saigo Takamori on April 11, 1868. Kaishū accepted Saigo's conditions and went down in history as the man who not only saved the lives and property of Edo's 1 million inhabitants, but also the entire Japanese nation. It is believed that if Tokugawa Yoshinobu had sent anyone other than Katsu Kaishū, there would not have been such a peaceful transition. Kaishū relocated to Shizuoka after the new imperial government took control of the shogun's former capital, which was soon to be renamed Tokyo. He returned briefly to government service as Vice Minister of the Imperial Japanese Navy in 1872, and held several titles and positions in the new Meiji government until his death from cerebral hemorrhaging in 1899. Kaishū was a skillful swordsman, but claimed to have never drawn his blade on an adversary despite numerous attempts on his life. "I've been shot at by an enemy about 20 times in all," Kaishū once said. "I have 1 scar on my leg, 1 on my head, and 2 on my side." Kaishū's defiance on death sprung from his reverence for life. "I despise killing, and have never killed a man. I used to keep my sword so tightly to the scabbard that I couldn't draw the blade even if I wanted to."